off. So I'll just leave that agenda up. That has now started recording and we're good to go. So as Kevin said, my name is Daniel. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I do try and help businesses and individuals make the most out of Microsoft 365, anything from end user support and training and that type of thing, right up to building intranets and document management systems and Power Automate and automating processes and things like that. I am fairly easy to contact online, so if you are on Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can grab me there as well. Hit me up there, and we can continue conversations and engagement that way there as well. Now, I'm going to just get out of presentation mode now, and we're going to jump into a little bit about what Microsoft 365 is and what you do have at your disposal here. Now, as we know, with Microsoft 365, we've got a lot of different types of applications. Now, when we're on the Microsoft 365 homepage, for example, which I am here, and everybody can go to Microsoft365.com and log in, you'll see that when you click in the top left-hand corner up the top here, that we've got a stack of different applications. And when you click on Explore Applications, then you'll see another landing page where we've got a plethora of different things that we do have access to depending on what license that you have. So we've got different licenses in Microsoft 365 as well that give you access to different applications. It's not just Word and PowerPoint and Excel and those type of apps, but we've got things like Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive and Power BI and Power Automate, and there's a lot to take in. And there's a lot of different use cases for each and every one of those. So it's important not to get too overwhelmed with what we do have, but just to know that you do have a suite of very powerful different applications at your disposal here. And really, there is not a lot of need to go outside of this ecosystem. We can see, sometimes we see a lot of organizations that have different types of applications for different things or different services where you can actually bring everything inside. You're already paying for this license. We've got access to all of these tools. Why not utilize them inside the security boundaries of Microsoft 365? So just something to note when you're thinking about things that, a service like, let's just say maybe Slack or Monday.com or those type of services, you can actually achieve those results, the outcomes that they give you with the Microsoft 365 tools as well. So there's a lot there. Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at quickly is around OneDrive for Business. So it is probably the easiest one to understand and make use of. It's a place where, and there tends to be a lot of confusion about what to use OneDrive for and what to use SharePoint for. So OneDrive for Business basically is your own personal storage cloud location. As part of your license, you get this place where you can store all your files. It replaces the need for USB sticks, your computer hard drive, external hard drives, and things like that. You've got access to your files across any device, in any location, as long as you've got an internet connection. Actually, you don't even need to have an internet connection. You can go offline and still have access to all your files. So it is yours, right? So I would highly recommend that you start utilizing OneDrive for Business to store all of your files. All right, it's backed up, it's accessible from everywhere. Now it's yours. All the content inside of that is yours unless you share it or give access to other people. So when I jump up, and many of you might be familiar with this user interface here. This is the Microsoft 365 start page. I can click on the top left-hand corner here and I can go into OneDrive, and that is OneDrive in the browser, as we call it. We also do have the ability to be able to synchronize OneDrive for Business to your own computer. So a lot of us still like using File Explorer to access all of your files. Typically, you've had a U drive or a H drive for all your home directory type of information. And that's kind of what OneDrive replaces and replicates. So we do have the ability to be able to synchronize down to your computer and have a little OneDrive accessible on your PC or Mac as well. You can see there, pretty familiar type of structure. We've got new folders, we've got all of our files and everything like that. And this is just the browser version. Now, as I said before, you've got the ability to give access to people to that content. We're still, and no doubt, you're still in the process of attaching documents to emails. We all know the problems with that. We send out a single version of a document to 10 different people. We've got 10 different versions of that document. 10 different people make changes. You receive all of that back, and then you've got 10 versions that you need to collate all together and then try and merge all of those changes together. But with OneDrive and SharePoint in general, we can use the sharing functionality to be able to share our content out. So you can see when I click on sharing, I've got the ability to be able to give different access to different people. For example, I can type in a Gmail account or an external account and give that user view only access or read access. If you don't want them to change anything, we just give them read access and they've got the ability to be able to view that. We don't have to attach it to an email, and we don't have multiple different versions floating across the interwebs with our content. Now, the other interesting thing that I'll just touch on here as well is we do have the ability to request files from people as well. So you could set up a little folder inside of OneDrive for Business if you're working on a project or an RFQ or an RFP or something like that, and you've got multiple people that you want to request files from in a single location to get them to upload files. Then we've got this functionality here, which is pretty cool and recently released, is around requesting files. So again, we open up this folder and external people or even internal people for that matter can upload their files into this location, and it's in a trusted source. You've got access to it. The people that are uploading files into here will only see what they have access to see. All right, so all of a sudden we've got all of our files in here, but then we can get files from other people as well. Okay, and when we touch on SharePoint in a minute, what we're going to be able to see is that you can actually access all your SharePoint content inside of OneDrive for Business as well. So it really does become your files application across Microsoft 365. So again, I'll just mention we do have the chat open. So if you do have any questions, feel free to post them in there. Kevin, if there are any that are sort of relevant to the topic that we are talking about right that second, then just interrupt, and I'm more than happy to take that if it's not going to be too lengthy, because I know we're pushed for time.
We actually have one of those right now from Deval. So can I see who I shared files with in my activity tab in the past?
Well, you can on the left-hand side here in the browser, you can see that I've got this shared icon or the shared tab here. So I can see what's been shared with me and what's been shared by me. All right, so there's a view there that allows you to see everything that you've shared and everything that has been shared with you as well. All right, and then back on the home page as well, we do have the activity here, and you can see the owners of this of the files themselves. But you can see in the activity, you can see who's edited the document, and then also if I've shared it, then where I've shared that to. All right, so there is the capability to see that content there as well. Something that I'll touch on super quickly is under the My Content, and this is even better, is I've got this shared section here. I can filter by document type. I can filter by keyword, and you can see here who that document has been shared with, or you can even browse by people. So if you're working with somebody quite often and regularly, you can have them pinned here and see all the documents that you're both collaborating on, regardless of where they live as well. All right, so we've got that. This is just brand new, browse by people, but also browse by meeting, which is even better because we all lose track of documents that are shared during meetings. We can browse the content that's being shared through meetings as well. All right, let's move on now to SharePoint. So SharePoint is basically your SharePoint isn't just one thing. It's made up of lots of different types of sites, right? So I'm going to jump into an example of a SharePoint site, and this is more of a what we call a SharePoint communication site. So it's a place where organizations, groups of people, functional areas, those type of things can utilize this for more of a communications side of things. We create news articles, we create links, we create dashboards, and it does become, and you can create a central portal to all the resources and news and updates that a user across your organization might need access to. All right. So think of that like an intranet. So we use communication sites to build out an intranet type of framework. We've got global navigations. We can target content. So we can say, right, this navigation across the top here isn't really, not everybody needs to see certain links here, but only depending on your role. If you're part of IT, then there's certain links that might be more relevant to you than that of HR, for example, which might have a different set of links that are more relevant to HR. But you can see by creating a central portal using SharePoint, a SharePoint communication site, we can bring everything into a single location and then have a trusted place, a trusted source where we can give access to different types of things. Now, intranets take on two main verticals that I see at the moment. One is more communication heavy, so news and updates and events and dates and things like that, just to keep everybody informed about what's happening across the organization. But then you've also got a more resource based type of intranet as well. So people come to your intranet to be able to get something done. I need to apply for leave. I need to find a policy. I need to get my expenses paid. I need to look at what my employee benefits are, those type of things. So that's more of a resource type of resource-based or task-orientated type of intranet. We combine the two and we've got a really powerful portal, employee portal, that we really do have a central place for everything that we need. Now, let's continue down the document path. So I'm going to jump in, and we just spoke about and saw a communication site. Now, what we're going to do here is look at a different type of site. So it's still SharePoint, but primarily this type of site, which is called a team site, is generally used for a group of people, a team, a department, a functional area, a group of people that need a place to store content and get access to everything that they need to do their role. So think of, if you're still using file shares, for example, you might have an X drive or a U drive where it's just your department. So finance, typically a good example, or HR or IT for that matter, or human resources, people and culture, if you're calling yourself people and culture, then we'd have a carved out area on our file server where only that group of people have got access to. That's where we store our files. So you can think of a SharePoint team site in a similar manner. Now, it can be open and public, public to your organization, or it can be private. So you can see in the top right-hand corner here of this site, it's private. There's only one member, all right? Not really a good use case. But if your IT team or your HR team's got 6 members or 10 people in that, then you can create a SharePoint site like this that's just for those 6 people. And anything that we put into this site, all those 6 people automatically have access to it. All right. So we don't have to share individually. We can just have a central place for all of our team, all of our project team, all of our department functional area. Then we can store that in there. Great for cross-functional and cross-silo type of projects as well. So you might have projects that need input from IT, from HR, from finance, from different project managers. They can all be members of this site. It doesn't matter what department they're in. They can all have access and be granted access to the content inside of here. SharePoint has its own document repository. So we have this thing that we call document libraries. So we can see on the left-hand side here, I've got a couple of different links here. One that's called documents. Every SharePoint site starts with a single document library. It's blank at the moment, but that's where we upload and we store all our documents. Similar to OneDrive, We go new, and then we've got the ability to create folders and documents and upload things, and we can structure things the way that we want to. Now, you'll also see here that I've got this little option here that says add shortcut to OneDrive. I spoke before about OneDrive being, or can potentially be, and a lot of people do use OneDrive as their only application to access files. I can add a shortcut to this document library in my OneDrive. So then when I go to OneDrive, I've got not only access to my personal documents, but I've now got access to all the documents from this IT site here as well. All right, some really powerful and great accessibility and user experience options by adding your shortcuts to OneDrive as well. Now, if we extend, you can see that we've got a few different columns here. Now, what I might do is just very, very quickly, I'm just going to upload a few different documents into this document library here. So what we can do, nice and easy, drag and drop content onto the browser window, and you can see that it's uploading documents into my document library. So here we're uploading now, or automatically members of the site get access to these documents. They can edit, they can share, they can create, and they can modify. You can see here that we've got different columns, or what we call metadata. So we can add additional information about a document. You might have heard the term metadata before. It's information about an item. To give you an example of that, typical example, we've got a document library here for our controlled documents across our company. We need a central place to manage our documents, our policies and procedures in this case. So you can see that we've got our documents, but we've got a few different columns here. We've got one for a review date, we've got one for status of a document, we've got one for category, and we've got one for the document type. Now, where this comes into play, imagine a document library with 3,000 documents in it. We've got 3,000 controlled documents. We've got no folders here. We're presenting all of our documents in a single list. The beauty about this metadata is I can say, right, I know that I'm looking for something from people and culture. So I'm going to say, right, only show me documents that have been tagged with people and culture. Or I might say, I'm coming here, I know I'm looking for a policy, or I'm looking for a procedure, and I don't know where to start. So let's narrow things down from the outset and go, right, just show me the procedures. That's what I'm looking for. I know that's the type of content. So you can see there, automatically and very, very quickly, I can get to the documents that I'm looking for here. We can also create different views of these libraries. So based on this metadata, I can now say, let's create a new view. Let's call these procedures, and let's create it. All right. So what that's going to do, I've got a new view called procedures. I want to filter, and I only want to show procedures. So now, if the demo gods are with me, that will have a new view, and I'm going to filter by procedures. So only show me the procedures. I'm going to save that view now. And now I've got two views. I've got all of our documents, and I've got a little sliced out version of procedures. So it's pretty cool, right? So we can then craft our own different views, and from an end user's point of view, makes it really easy to find all of our documents. Now, because again, we've got this date column, what we can actually do is do a little bit of smarts here. So I've got review dates on all of these documents. What I can do is now set an automatic reminder, let's say 14 days prior to this document needing to be reviewed. So I want to be notified 2 weeks prior to that, so that I've got a little bit of time to get in there and review this document. So we can set a reminder for ourselves at any time interval. So you can see here, it's just setting this up automatically. There's no code, there's no development. I just want to know 14 days prior, I'll get an email notification now to notify me which documents need reviewing at that particular point in time. The other cool thing here with the metadata and SharePoint document libraries in general here is we can create rules. A lot of times people come to me and say, we want to be notified when a value in a column changes. So maybe it's a status column. When something changes to approved, I want to be notified. Or when something new's uploaded, I want to be notified. Well, you can actually do that yourself now. All right. So I can say, create a rule. I can say when data in a column changes, when a new file is added, when a file is deleted. I want to say, right, when a new file is added, send an email to Alex and myself. Create, done. So now, whenever a new document is added to a document library, Alex and, well, not me, but Megan in this case, is going to get an email notification. What about when a column changes? So let's change when the status changes. Let's go to approved. I want to send an email to me. All right. So that now means that whenever the status changes to approved, I'll get an email notification. So automatically, I've already started in the case of 15 seconds, created a few little automations here for me to make things easier for me to manage the content that's inside of this document library as well. All right. Now, again, a common thing to do with document management is getting approvals or requesting sign off on a document. So what you'll also see is you've got the ability here to be able to automate a request. Now, this is a really simple process. We can extend and build some really complex approval workflows out of this, but we can request sign off. So I can quickly and easily, I've done the changes, I've edited this policy, but I just need somebody to sign off on this for me, all right? So I can say, right, let's create a little request sign off flow. And again, within 10 seconds or so, I'm going to be able to send this document to somebody to review it and then approve it, all right? So I'll send to Alex, please review. Let's run that. Alex is now going to get a little email notification with a link to this document. He can review it, tick a button and say, yep, I approve, all good to go. And then what we can do is in this case, we could change this status of this document manually from rejected to approved. Dynamically, it's going to change, and you can see that status has now been changed. Now we can extend on that even further, obviously, with Power Automate, which is our workflow engine of Microsoft 365, where we could automate that entire process. You wouldn't even have to touch it. All the statuses and approvals and things like that are all automated in a seamless manner. Now I'm going to leave SharePoint there for a sec because I am conscious of time, and I want to move into Microsoft Teams very, very quickly. All right. So what we've got here is a SharePoint site. Now, we've obviously well, not obviously, but majority of us have probably heard of Microsoft Teams. We're in a Microsoft Teams meeting right now. So that SharePoint Teams site that we just had there, every single Microsoft Teams, so we might be using Teams for chats and meetings and things like that, but each team actually has like a files repository as well. So we've got a files tab in our channels. Now that files tab is actually powered by SharePoint in the back end. So we saw a document library there before. We can see I've got a number of different teams in my Teams user interface here. One of those teams is Let's Go Design. All right, so this design team, the general channel, we've got a files tab. This files tab has hopefully some files in it. These files don't live in Teams. They live in SharePoint in the background. So all of the files and content services is actually powered by SharePoint. You can see there, pretty similar look and feel to what we were just on because it's the same thing. It's a team site. It's connected to a Microsoft team. Any file that I upload into that files tab actually gets stored in SharePoint in the back end in there as well. So Teams is just basically a layer on top, gives your SharePoint and your group, your functional area, your department, additional capabilities over and above just a files repository. We've got channels for communication. We've got additional tabs that we can add for additional functionality. We can bring in Power BI reports. We can bring in lots of different things to provide that single pane of glass for your group of people. Again, it's backed by SharePoint and it's backed by a group of people. So if we've got 10 people in our department, we add them as a member, and then they've got access to all of our content inside of there as well. Now, while we're talking about streamlining processes and business operations and things like that, part of Microsoft Teams is a little application that I want, before we get onto tasks, that we'll just have a really, really quick look at. So one of these apps is called Approvals. So I mentioned before, Approvals is probably one of the most common things that people want to try and automate. So there's this Approvals app inside of Microsoft Teams that allow you to be able to create your your approval requests. We've actually got a number of different templates that we can use as well, but you'll see there that we can see that we've got integration with e-signature platforms. So think DocuSign, Adobe Sign. So you can, and you literally can, automate an entire process from document creation, send it out for e-signature via Adobe Sign or DocuSign. Somebody signs it, it then comes back, and then it lives inside of SharePoint, all from within a single platform here. We've also got templates, right? So there's out-of-the-box templates that we can use. So you can see we've got leave requests, leave approvals, business trip approvals, work from home vehicle application. So let's just quickly start with a leave request process. So you can see here I've got leave type, date, end date, remarks, send. All right. So let's go to specific people, and then we can send our request and get approval for that particular thing all automatically for us. It's not set up in here, unfortunately, that application, but we could do that. And that's all through the approvals application inside of Microsoft Teams. Everything gets managed inside of Teams. All right. And then we'll get notifications that are that flow into Teams like a message as well. So when people approve things, then that will come into Microsoft Teams. Again, we're just removing the friction, making a single place to help all of our different types of processes. Now, another common pain point, or another common thing that people need assistance with, and I'm sure there's many of you watching and listening that have so many different tasks or inputs that you need to get and manage, whether it's yourself for personal tasks or whether it's for a group of people. Now, there's two main applications that we're talking about there. So we've got this application that we call Microsoft To Do. So again, it's part of your licensing. It's there. It's open. It's accessible on your mobile phone, on any device, through a web browser, through anything. Now, I use this app just as a personal use case. I use this application religiously every single day. I have that many things coming in that I need to think about, that I need to manage. I call them inputs. They get inputted from email, from telephone calls, from Teams messages, from lots of different places that I get input from. I need to get those inputs out somewhere into some application that I know that I'm going to check every single day. Microsoft To Do is the app that I use for that. I've got it on my phone. I can talk, I can use Siri, for example, create me a task. Actually, Siri's just triggered off. And then that will create a task inside of Microsoft To Do. All right. So it removes the friction. I can just easily get things out. Microsoft To Do is a great way for you to be able to manage your own personal tasks. We can create our own lists. Doesn't have to be for around work, right? It could be for lots of different. I have a list called in tray. So whenever I need to get anything out of my head so I don't forget about it, I put it into my in tray list. Every single day, I curate that in tray list and then I take action on those tasks, whether it's send an email, make a phone call, get something from the shops, all that sort of stuff, right? I've got a shopping list, for example, there too. So I know when I'm down the shops or outside, if I'm near a shop, I can just quickly look at that list and then I've got access to things and I can take action nice and quickly. All right. So I use that all for my personal task management. But we can also see that I've got the ability for a my day section here too. So I can add tasks that appear to my day. It's just as, again, like a filtered view of things that I'll want to tackle for that day. I've got anything that's been planned, so that's got a specific date. I've got anything that's been assigned to me. So when we look at Planner shortly, if we've got a project team, I can assign a particular task to certain people. So this is where the integration cross-platform, cross-applications come into play. So if somebody assigns me a task, then it's going to appear here in this list called assigned to me. I can also flag emails. So, you know, in Outlook, when you can hit the little flag, you can flag an email as something to follow up on. Those flagged emails actually come into a list here as well called flagged emails. So you can start to see that this can become a single place, as long as it's a trusted location that you know you're going to religiously check, can become a place to bring everything on a personal level, that everything around you that is happening, and we can manage all of our tasks inside of here. Now, what about our group related tasks? Well, that's when a application called Planner comes into play. So again, inside of Microsoft 365, we've got this application that we call Planner. Hopefully. Let's have a look here. We do, under this category called Project Management. So we do have Microsoft Project, too much for this session. Microsoft Planner, nice, simple group task management. Great UI, great functionality of probably an intermediate type of project management tool. Microsoft Project's obviously the top end of that, but you can create a new plan. Now you can see here that we've got a few different templates that we can use. I'll choose project management. Let's go for something boring like Project Alpha. We can add it to an existing group if we've got an existing group already. So if I'm part of a HR team or the operations team, we can add this planner plan into that group already. So I'm going to add this to the Mark 8 project team. And let's create that. So it's creating a plan based off that template. Now, the concept here is that we've got different buckets, we've got different cards, and we've got different views. So you can see that we've got a bucketing type of view here. Initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling. We can drag our cards across as they move through this process. We can tick them off if we want to as well. When we click it, we can open it, and then we've got our tags, we've got our buckets, we've got our projects, we've got priorities, due dates, start dates, end dates, all of the bits and pieces that we need in a task management system, or a project management system really, to be able to manage everything that we need to get done. We've got different views, we've got charts, so we can see how many tasks are left. We've got all our filtering options here, how many tasks are sitting in which particular group, who's got what. We've also got a schedule, so it presents this on a calendar base for us as well. All of our team, so Project Alpha here, has got, the Mark 8 project team has got access to this planner plan now, and everybody can see all the tasks, and we can assign different tasks to different people. Okay, I'll jump back onto the board. I can go add task, do something, set a date, assign it to Alex, add the task. There it is there. And then what we can do now is we can go ahead and fill out all of our bits and pieces for our particular task. So a really good way where Microsoft To Do is kind of more targeted at you as the person. Planner is more group-based and group-orientated and team-based, project-based. Anything that's assigned in here, though, does come into your Microsoft To Do and does come into assigned to me. All right, so really good 2 use cases there. And to tie it all together, what we do have is this app in Microsoft Teams called Tasks by Planner and To Do. And this is an aggregation. So if you live in Teams, we've got this app here that actually combines the two. You can see everything that's been assigned to me. I've got my day, I've got my tasks, I've got my flagged email, I've got my lists that are coming from Microsoft To Do. All right. And then you've got assigned to me, and you can see the source here. It's coming from lots of different places, lots of different planner plans, the events that we're working on, the projects that we're working on, the product launch, anything that's been assigned to me, I've got access to right here. So Task by Planner and To Do, a great aggregation application for your tasks inside of Microsoft Teams. Now, we are almost at 45 minutes. I've probably got about 2 minutes to go if we're all okay. Are we all okay, Kevin and John, to tie things off with Microsoft Loop?
We sure are, and we are recording this, so we'll share the session out if people need to get out early as well. So, but yeah, keen to.
I've been talking too much, so I haven't monitored the chat. So hopefully, you guys, if there are any questions, again, just pop them in the chat. It doesn't matter what they are. No stupid question. Just ask there, and then I can also get back to you as well after the fact there as well. Now, I did mention at the start, we do have, I guess, a new kid on the block, a new application that we call Microsoft Loop. It may not be enabled in your tenant yet. So when you go to this URL, you might see Loop is not enabled in your organization. So you may not have access to it, but it's good to know about. If you navigate to loop.microsoft.com, you may or may not be able to log in, depending on the settings in your tenant. Now, what Microsoft Loop is really a collaborative space and collaborative way to get together with people, to think, to plan, to create. It's like your own digital working space. All right. I'm going to open up a workspace just to go through this at a very high level. We've got this concept, and it might look fairly similar to OneNote. So we've got our workspace here, but then we've also got our pages and our structure on our left-hand side. So we can create different pages. All right. Now these pages are made up of components. Again, similar to co-authoring, multiple people can be in the one workspace in the one time doing stuff. Right. When I hit a /, you can see that we've got lots of different components that we can see on the page. Now, you may be familiar also, you might have heard of something called Notion. So Notion is I guess, a comparable type of product to Microsoft Loop. What we'll see here is that we've got different, what we call components. So again, talking about tasks, and I'll use this as an example, we've got this tasks component that we can add to this page. All right, so we can add our tasks. We can all come together here. We can assign it to somebody in particular, and then we've got a due date. So not only did we have Microsoft To Do and Planner, we've now also got this thing that we call Microsoft Loop, and we've got a Loop component, a Loop tasks component. Now, what this allows us to do also now, or what happens here, is this actually integrates in with Microsoft Planner. So we've got that task integration cross-platform so that we're not having different silos and different buckets of things all sorted all over the place. So what this has now done is, in a minute, what will happen is a plan will be created for this particular workspace and this particular page for us. All right, so that we do have that integration. So we can create pages, we can add different components, we can all come together in a single location here. And it's just a nice, easy, free-flowing way to be able to think, plan, create, and get things done. We can add files, We can bring all of our resources that we're working on as a project team. For example, we might want to bring in a file, right? So we can link to all of our files in here too. We can bring in different people. We can have voting tables, and we've got stacks of different things. So I might want to bring in that mobile phone policy into this document, into this workspace. So you can see I've now got this document that's been embedded into this page. Now the great thing about this is, and this is might be a bit blow your mind a little bit, but what we can do is we can create what we call a loop component of this task list. And let me just show you what we can do. So I can say copy this component. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to start a little chat with Alex, right? So Alex, probably already got one here. I'm going to paste that loop component into a chat. You can see that it's syncing. You can see that that's the task list. I'm going to hit the send button. I've now extracted that little component, that little task list out of that loop workspace and into a chat. It's all in sync. It's fluid. It doesn't matter where I'm accessing it from. It's all in sync, right? So what I'm going to do is start a task 2 in here. I'll assign it to Megan. And I'm doing this in Teams, right? So we can see that we're in Teams. I've added that in Teams, but when I jump back into here, you can see that that's automatically there already, right? All done, just that component. I'll tick that off inside of Microsoft Teams. That has now ticked off too. So we can create these little atoms and unique components of work and send it to different people in different modalities. Some people might be living in email. We can grab this component, send it in an email. We can send it in a Teams chat. We can insert it into a Word document. So Microsoft Loop is really going to change, or does have the potential to change the way that we come together as a group, how we plan for things, how we run things. We can aggregate and bring everything into a single workspace and have that collaborative nature of the platform itself. Now, I won't go any further with Loop on that. Again, I'm sorry for running over time. I could talk about this and show this probably for another 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 hours worth. So the idea is that this gives you, I guess, an overview of the power of what you do have inside of Microsoft 365. Now, we didn't get a chance to touch on these type of things either, right? So we've got Power Automate to be able to automate our processes. So think of document approvals, leave requests, expense forms, expense requests, those type of things. Power Automate is your application here to be able to automate your processes. We've got Viva Engage, this big blue icon in the middle. All right, so again, it has commonly been talked of as a social network for your enterprise. Viva Engage, we can create communities, cross silos, work out loud, and create communities of practice inside of Viva Engage, where we've got, conversations and things like that happening inside there. We've got Power BI as well, so for data analytics and dashboards and that type of analytics. And then we've got Microsoft Forms as well. So being able to spin up an online form, nice and quick and easy. Somebody needs to fill that out. We can fill it out. It can be public as well, so it can be anonymous. All of our responses come back into an Excel spreadsheet. And then if you combine that with Power Automate, that's when we can create some really amazing functionality about automation. Post a message to Teams when somebody fills a form out. Email these people when this form's filled out. Those type of things that we can then also start to think about automating as well. I'm going to end there. Feels like I've been talking forever. That was a very, very, very quick, and I did go through all of that pretty quickly, but we do have the recording. So look, more often than not, you're using some part of Microsoft 365. I guarantee you're not using it to your full extent and its full potential. it's important to take things fairly slowly, not try and boil the ocean here, as we say. Start small, start with a process, start with a certain way of working, and then work out how to use applications that you have access to be able to help save time, automate processes, work better together, better communication, and better ways to operate as well. As I said at the start, there are a few places where you can contact me. I do have a daily newsletter where I do send out little training tips and things that are happening across the platform. So if you're that way inclined, they're usually video. Jump over there and you can pop your email address in and grab today's edition that will be sent out later on. And then also LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube as well. Okay, you've had enough of my voice. So over to John or Kevin to close things out. I will just have a quick look here at the chat while that's happening. Jacinta, if you jump on, yes, I do have some explainer videos on To-Do and Planner. I can collate those and I will get John to send them across to you. Insights on when Pilot. So I'm assuming you mean Copilot. Copilot the pricing was actually just released last week for Copilot, and it's going to be $30 US per user per month. And it should be, well, my last interaction was around September, October, but there's going to be different parts to Copilot and different integrations to Copilot. So depending on the rollout, so there's Copilot in Teams, there's Copilot in SharePoint, there's Copilot in Windows 11, there's Copilot in Dynamics, lots of different Copilots. So that is coming, and very, very soon. Newsletters. I create a newsletter through MS Sway. Is there any way I can add employee polls through forms into Sway? I don't know is my answer. You could always put a link to a form in a Sway. The newsletter goes to employees' personal emails. Please advise how I can do a poll. Okay, so Microsoft Forms would be the easiest way for you to create a poll. I don't know if you can embed a Microsoft form into a Sway, but you could certainly provide a link or a QR code to a Microsoft form, and that could be a way to be able to do that. Because Microsoft Forms has the ability to share in different ways. If people still want to stay on the line, I'm more than happy just to jump into Microsoft Forms and I can show you very, very quickly. Probably got a couple set up. And so if we jump into Forms, when we go up to collect responses, we can have different ways to get this form out, right? So we can create a form. It automatically generates a little QR code for us as well. So you could copy, grab this, put it in your Sway, or you could embed the link to that. That might work. I'm not sure if I actually haven't used Sway for a very long time. I'm not sure if Sway has the ability to embed iframes or anything like that. It might. Let me just quickly open up this and we can have a quick little look. Well, you can certainly embed links. So that would be an option. You can insert images, but I don't know that you can, I'm not sure you'll be able to embed. Oh yeah, hang on. You might be able to embed. Is that an embed card? Paste your embed code. Let's have a look. Maybe not. That might work. You might have to have a play with that. See if that works. Might be able to do that. I'll leave it there. I won't spend too much time on that. But that might work. There's different ways there. So if I go to media, video, image, so you can obviously embed QR codes, embed your links. Yeah, might just have to have a play with that embed code.
Right.
Deval,
we can also help you outside of this session through our service desk, or I personally will happily help you as well. And I see you've just posted another question in there, or a challenge. And yeah. I think I know the answer to that one as well.
You can just, if it needs to be outside your organization, you just go, can anyone respond? If that's what you're asking. So that means that anybody can, it's basically an anonymous form, so anybody can access.
Yeah, and if you use that way, you may just need to put in a field to ask for their email address or their
email,
details.
Name, first name, surname, email address. You'd need to put in there because you're not going to know who that person is. Yeah, correct. And you will get the analytics. So the responses will come in to the form analytics section here too.
All right, perfect. Should we call it a day there? I know obviously you could talk about this for months, really, I think.
I could.
Yeah, I do. I love it as well. I absolutely love it. So yeah, thank you all for your time, guys. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. That's probably the best, most informative session I've been to in 1 hour, where we've had the highest level overview. Yes, and look, it's really important for you guys to contribute to these future sessions. So you will get that survey, and then we can focus more on an area that the majority of you are interested in.
I will. I know there's a few people still online. If you don't mind, I've got 60 seconds left.
I hand over to you. We're calling a day from Alltask IT, but we'll leave it with Daniel. Yeah, and I'm keen to hear more, okay. So I'm going to stay on too.
So this, I just wanted to leave with this because, again, this is just a common thing, and it's a lot of, it is a pain point across organizations, is when you start using SharePoint, you start creating news, right? We've got this concept of a newsletter. So being able to send out a curated newsletter inside of Microsoft 365. So you can see here, simple, basic intranet landing page. We've got our news that's coming through on the homepage. But one of the hidden, I guess, hidden types of functionalities inside of SharePoint is being able to email a news digest. So I can pick different news articles here, and I can create a digest and send that to the entire organization, or even just a single person or a group of people. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll just send Alex the news digest. This week in the news, and let's send that across, right? So I've done all our work creating these amazing news articles. We want to get that out. We want to communicate that out with people. So what that's doing now is it's going to send Alex a nice little email of that news digest. So I'll just quickly open up his email. Now, yes, there are some drawbacks, and one of the first things you're going to ask is, can we brand it and can we change the UI and look and feel? No, you can't, but it is a very good piece of functionality. So what will happen is that Alex will soon see, when it comes in, a digest. There it is. So there's our digest and news, right? So we've got a nice looking email newsletter. When I click it, it opens and it takes me directly to that page. So a nice little, once we start to, if you've got an intranet or you're looking at, and Alex doesn't, there you go, security trimmed. If you do have an intranet that you're using to communicate things across the organization, you can create these digests of content to send out on a weekly basis. Using Power Automate, you could actually automate this 12 o'clock every Friday. Let's just send this out. Anything that's new, that's been updated, let's send it out to everybody, because not everybody visits the intranet every day and you don't want people to miss out. Okay, I'm done. I'll let you go. Have a great rest of the day. And if there are any questions, hit me up on those different locations, or hit up John and Kevin, and we can get back to you as well. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, Daniel. Great work, mate. Thank you all.